Calvin?
I'm so serious in here today.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Tyler Guyton, is he still in concussion protocol?
He's finishing it up. He had another exam probably right now, and hopefully he'll be out of it shortly.
Sanborn, is he in the protocol?
Yep, everybody's going through their steps, and he is, and I think everybody's feeling better, but it's a process, as we know.
I think we asked you this last week. How do you deal with starters hurt and the backup, produces maybe beyond his expectations? How do you manage that when an injured player is kind of healthy and wants to come back?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a little bit old school. I don't really think that you lose your job because of an injury, but that also doesn't guarantee that you're going to stay the full-time starter. So, again, it goes back to the whole mantra of compete every day. And yeah, when guys come back off injuries, they're going to get their spot back, but you do earn more opportunities if you're a backup that goes in and performs well.
Clarence Hill, DLLS Cowboys. Can you update us on anybody you expect back this week that hasn't played a few weeks?
There's guys moving around better. I think as the week goes, there's a few guys that we might be able to get back, but it's hit and miss. Today's a day that you'll probably see more guys on the grass, but being on the grass doesn't necessarily mean that they're cleared to play. So there's a process, that they go through. Clarence, where it's with the trainers, and then they do some more on the grass, and then they move into mocks, and then they move into practice. But we are getting healthier, but to the extent of it, I'm not going to share that at this point.
Do we start Rebels window yet, or are we still waiting on that as well?
Still taking our time with that. Young player, very talented player, and just like with all the guys that we have to make these decisions on, we're going to be very selective with that because it does put you in a time frame where you have to make a decision, in 3 weeks. And but I really like what he's doing. Another guy that's out there on the grass doing a lot of good things.
You've shown some accountability with players. Obviously, mentioned Diggs a couple of weeks ago for the first couple of series, and last week you made some changes with Elam. Do you talk to players about that? How do you hold them accountable? Let them know, hey, this is what's best for the team, and we're just going to put the best player we think of. How are you handling those type of things?
Yeah, I try to get to each player. I think it's important. If for some reason I don't, the position coach definitely does. But in those cases, you have real conversations. I think the player deserves to understand why the decision's being made, and it's our job to explain to them. And it's nothing that's, I hate the word, benching. To me, it's more about giving someone else another opportunity. Letting somebody that's competed well at a high level go do that. These players don't necessarily get benched. They're held accountable, but the communication piece is very important to me, just because I think they deserve to know, and that's our job, to have those hard conversations.
Brian Schottenheimer with ESPN. You've talked before how Clayton Adams was a guy that you had noticed before, and how did he get on your radar? Was there someone that he worked with, or you just were watching Arizona film? Like, how did that all?
No, it goes back to Indianapolis. When he was a tight end coach in Indianapolis, I knew some guys on that staff that just, when you're making your phone calls over the summer, which is what I do, because I don't have, other than hang with my family, much better to do than check in and see who some of the coaches are that maybe you don't know. And yeah, his name came up, and they just said, turn on the film. I coached a guy by the name of Jack Doyle when I was in Indianapolis, and Jack raved about Clayton. And so he kind of came on my radar, and then when I got a chance to spend some time with him, we played the Colts, I think the year I was a consultant, we played them. And so I met him before the game, and we just kind of, tried to do that. I'm not a big pregame talker, but, he was a guy I actually looked for. I wanted to go say hello and introduce myself, and we just kind of stayed in touch after that.
Switching topics, third straight year you guys have played the Panthers. What benefit is that in terms of preparation, maybe on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know some of the people. I think, I know the staff there very well. I hold them all in high regard, having been with Dave Canales and Pat McPherson, Will Harriger, Brad Idzik. I've competed against Ejiro a bunch. I see them playing with a lot of confidence right now. I see them playing very well at home. I think they're 2-0 at home. They got Derek Brown back on defense, so familiarity on both sides. But as you guys all know, it's going to come down to how we both perform on Sunday afternoon. And but Dave, has them playing with a lot of confidence.
John Machado with The Athletic. While talking about you after the game, Dak said
when you get to game day, he talks about playing free and being loose, and he's the epitome of that. If you want to see somebody who's enjoying the moment, it's Schotty. So just kind of where do you think that comes from, and why do you think that's important?
The reason I laugh is because I think of some of the things I say. I tend to sing songs sometimes, when I'm out there. I told Dak in the third quarter, I said, yeah, I suck right now, but I'll come back. And then we hit the big play to Pickens, and I said, hey, I'm back. Look, I've always talked about how blessed I am and just to be in this position, just to be coaching in the NFL, and then to be leading these young men, So there's stressful moments for sure. You ask the guys that coach with me and play for me. I've got a temper, but I try to keep it loose and light, and I like to have fun with it.
You've been, obviously, other stops, other teams. Is there maybe some even more importance to have something like that with the Dallas Cowboys, because there is always so much going on? They are a team that's always in the spotlight. There is a lot of drama and things that come with it, that maybe that helps.
John, I don't know. I don't really know. I never look at this as like, maybe because I was a 32-year-old, 33-year-old coordinator in New York, and we were doing hard knocks, and I was trying to find my way, leading men, and I'm coaching Brett Favre, who's 40 years old. So I don't look at it that way. I think it's important. I think it's how you should approach playing this game. All you can do is over try. I mean, you can truly go out there and because it's so important that, hey, we're playing, the Seahawks, and man, I got to show them they should have never fired me in 2020, and I'm going to show them, and you mess up, because you're trying too hard. You put the work in during the week, you get the preparation done, you get the players to feel confident, and then you go out on game day and you just let it rip, man. You just let it go, and I think that's how you handle the ups and downs, like, of this game. And I mean, I was tired. The players were tired after Sunday. The emotions of it, up and the downs, and it's like a game where you feel like we had the game in hand most of the time, but like there's constantly things going on, and I think really, trying to get these guys to understand to play free and relax is the best way to go out there and be the best version of yourself.
Nick Harris, 4-Star Telegram. Do you remember that summer conversation, who it was with that pointed you to Clayton Adams?
Might have been Chris Ballard. I don't. I know I talked to a number of people in the building. I don't remember per se. Matt Turpinning was a guy I know I talked to about Clayton. He's a big personnel guy there. But it's usually multiple people. I mean, I usually get the name from 2 or 3 people before I ever pick up the phone and call. And it's probably weird, like, hey, Brian Schottenheimer, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Hey, just wanted to talk to you. I mean, like, but that's the type of guy I am. I cold call people all the time.
And then going into the interview process, was that kind of your focus? Was it Clayton Adams, or was it really like, okay, let's look at these couple of guys, and Clayton showed up?
No, I mean, again, I wanted to get Clayton in front of the staff. I wanted to get Clayton in front of Jerry. I think it, and Steven. I think it helps that. Matt Eberflus was a huge proponent of Clayton. They had been together. Tyler Boyles, my chief of staff, was with him. But no, I mean, it was a very open search. And then when Clayton came in here along with a couple of the other guys, I think he did a great job of kind of separating himself, and he fit he fit what we were looking for.
How long did it take for him to really settle in, do you think, and once he arrived on the job? Was it
No, I don't think it's ever quick. I think it takes time. It's no different than me sitting in this chair. It takes time. But I will say this. I think, over the past 6 to 8 weeks, since we've gotten back to Dallas, I think he's really finding his flow. Like I said, he does an incredible job with the staff of delegating and doing different things. He's great in front of the room. He's a little bit like me that, John was talking about. He's a loose guy that likes to have a good time, and I've told you guys, you need to go take him to go get drinks. He's just an incredible personality. He's funny as anything, and the players kind of feed off of him.
Back.
Hey, Coach Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. J.C. Horn, he was a guy that the Cowboys had some pre-draft interest in. Can you just talk about the challenges of going against him and why he makes it so difficult on the opposing wide receiver?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, I know his dad. Joe Horn played for my dad, and I was on the staff as a young QC when Joe was there, and so really, love Joe, and he's obviously done a great job mentoring, JC, and yeah, just dynamic coverage skills. I mean, really, he's competitive, very confident, great transition. I can see why the Cowboys and a lot of teams coveted him. I think he's playing at a high level, with the way he not only covers, but the way he tackles. He's an excellent blitzer. He got free on us last year in a game, a little corner blitz, on third down that we mis-ID'd, and there's a lot to like.
All right, Joe.
Joe Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. What does marrying the run and the pass mean to you, and where does that philosophy come from?
Marrying the run and the pass means that, there's no scouting giveaways. There's no tells. There's no where, hey, if we're in the gun, we're throwing it. If we're under, we're running it. If we're in, 2-by-2 with both edges closed, it's 85% run. Runs that we have in the game, we're going to have action passes off of that and vice versa. And I think that's what, there's so much technology now, Joe, in terms of our ability to get information that everyone, the coaches give it to the players have it, that if you don't do that, you are battling uphill because they're obviously all very, very talented players, very intelligent, great coaches. If you don't do that, then, in my opinion, there's going to be a handful of plays in a game, which every play matters, that the defense is predicting or the offense is predicting what you're going to do. And so, I think, we actually have people that's all they do. Hey, tell us about this. Some of it's analytics. Some of them are coaches. I won't get into specifics of it, but they literally are looking for trends, and then we're going to break those trends. Because if you break those trends early in games, for example, in the openers, then what the players say is, okay, that doesn't hold up. So I remember playing San Francisco and Fred Warner. Well, I'll go Carolina. Luke Kuechly. I mean, the guy's one of the best to ever do it in terms of diagnosing things and having tells. And Russ coming off the bench and be like, yeah, he's calling out every play. Like literally, he's calling out every play. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, he's calling out every play. Trap here, three step there. And so I think the guys that overdo the studying, you can use it as an advantage because otherwise you're playing into their hands.
And then T.J. Bass and Brock Hoffman, they're really close. They locker room mates. One's quiet, one's loud.
One wears face paint, one doesn't.
Yeah.
One talks trash to everybody and one doesn't.
Well, their relationship, obviously, how much does that help because they've been called upon a lot at the same time. How much does that relationship help them to be called upon together? Yeah,
I think, it goes back to the fact that they've practiced together a lot. I mean, I talk a lot about Brock, so I'm going to talk about TJ for a second. I mean, TJ's a guy that we really loved coming out of Oregon, played tackle there. He is an extremely talented football player that at times, early on as a player, he wasn't a great practice player. And you guys know how important practice is to me. And there's been times I've literally had to kick him in the butt and be like, come on, man, you got to go. Come on, we need more from you in practice. But he's really grown. He's really matured. You watch him practice now, and you see the intentionality. You see how important it is to him. And he is playing at a high level. But it goes back to the relationships. It goes back to the culture. It goes back to the connection. I mean, every Thursday night, these guys go to dinner together, and the quarterbacks go, and tight ends come sometimes. And I think who bought last week? I think it was BB or maybe Brock. But that's what we want these guys to do. And those two guys have a very special relationship.
Skyler Dixon with the AP. Calvin was asking earlier about backups shining and what that means for the starters coming back. I wondered as a play caller at receiver, obviously a good problem to have. You've got guys emerging, those guys emerging. But when you're calling plays in a game, and I know the game day roster limits the numbers, but can you get yourself kind of too tied up in trying to get all those guys involved, or is it pretty easy to just kind of not worry about that?
I don't really call plays, to try to get a ball to a spot on the field. I call plays to get balls to people. Like the big third down, the first third down in the game that Flournoy, caught, that was designed to get him the ball. That was the design. It was the first progression. I wasn't predicting he was going to catch it and pull away and pull out of the first tackle and go down there and do that. That caught me by surprise in a good way. Another touch for Flo, because I'm assuming that's who you're talking about, was, we were in 2 minutes, we were going fast, and we got him to jump. And so free play response means everybody goes deep and you take your shot. And so, incredible catch. Dak put it in a spot where he could get it. He had the power to step inside of the corner. And but you're always going to feature your quote-unquote elite players. We've got a lot of elite players, but again, I'm going to say this about Dak. What Dak's doing an incredible job of right now is he's just reading progressions. And the first open guy is going to get the ball, and I think that's what we're seeing.
Babe.
Babe Loftberg, 105.3 The Fan, Cowboys Radio. So, Brian, no matter how hard one works, there's only so much time in the day. And I'm sure when you're a coordinator and play caller, not a head coach, you thought, man, I don't have an extra 10 minutes in my day. Now you're doing all that, and you've got the media, you've got everything else you're dealing with. So have you come to a good place where your allocation of time is divided the way you want it, or are you still kind of learning how to allocate your time?
I think you're always learning, babe. I mean, I think I am better. I think that was something that Jerry and I talked about very frankly. I think it was just the two of us actually before he offered me the job, as he was obviously concerned about that. Okay, you've never been a head coach. How are you going to do this? And I, again, went back to some of my strengths, and that's my ability to communicate and to, allocate things to people I trust. Why was Ryan Feeder such an important hire for me? Because I knew I could hand off the game management stuff and not have to be stressed about it. I would hear his voice. Why was Clayton Adams such an important hire for me? I knew I wouldn't have to sit in every run game meeting. Why was Matt Eberflus such an important hire for me? I knew that the defense would be, a well thought out scheme with the principles that I believe in and things like that. But I think you're always learning. I don't sleep a whole lot anyways. Probably need to. My wife actually said to me yesterday I look tired. I said, that's okay. I'll get through it. But I do think a strength of mine is using the people that I've hired because I believe in them. I'm going to hold them accountable. And if there's things I don't like, they'll know about it. But I do think that the staff was built the right way because I knew that I couldn't be in every room at every point in time. Nick Sorensen, another guy I should have mentioned. I mean, I trust Nick. I'm not in every special teams meeting. I can't. I'm with quarterbacks. So you have to trust the people you hire and let them do their jobs.
Garrett.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Brian, you mentioned that trust in Clayton. Why do you trust him to have kind of full autonomy over the run game, given it's his first year as an OC?
I've seen him do it. Again, you got to remember now, we sat here in the spring from 7 a.m. till 11 o'clock at night building this thing. And there was really hard conversations, and there were things I was like, yep, I like that. It makes perfect sense. And there's things I'm like, nope, I would never call that. And he's very humble in a good way. I think you have to be as a coordinator for a offensive-minded head coach. But, man, Garrett, we've had so many, real conversations. And, I know about him as a husband and a father with his beautiful girls and their soccer careers and things like that. We don't just talk about football. If all you do as a coach is talk about football, then you're fooling yourself because you're not going to get people to buy into what you're doing. And then when you have to jump people's asses, which I do probably at times, my wife says too much, then they're going to push back, and that's never a good thing. But, yeah, I mean, he and I have had a lot of great football conversations, a lot of great conversations about life, and that's why I trust him.
What's the conversation like slowing down someone like Rico Dowdle, an FC offensive player that we just went for 200 last week?
Yeah, it's hard. Rico's a really skilled runner. He's got great vision. He runs hard. The guys that have been around, which we've got a ton of new faces, they don't realize the power that he has. Rico was a guy that, we considered keeping, and we kind of fell in love with Javonte. Were we right? I don't know. Javonte's doing great. Rico's doing great. But the Carolina Panthers are a damn good run team, and that's not just because of Rico. It's because of their offensive line. But I'm proud of Rico.
Tom.
Tommy Darsh, DallasCowboys.com. Going back to the third straight year playing Carolina, where have you seen Bryce Young improve year by year, just where he's gone year by year?
Yeah, more comfortable. And I think, there's a guy who had a first-time head coach, not a first-year head coach get fired, and then a new play caller took over his first year, went from Frank Reich to Thomas Brown, who TB's a really good friend of mine, good coach. He's in New England now. To Dave coming in, and then, Brad Idzik and, Dave being the play caller. He's more comfortable. I mean, I think anytime we talk about bringing the team back, were they down 17, I think, nothing last week against Miami, to be able to go and do that, that's growth and that's maturity, and that's something that he'll pull from, and the guys will have confidence. Tet McMillan was a great draft pick. You guys know we loved Tet, had some love for him. They're using, Hunter Renfrow the right way, in my opinion. On third down, he's very active in the way they target him, and they've got a stable of backs. I mean, it's not just Rico. I mean, Hubbard's a great player. Etienne's a great player. They know how to run it. I mean, their run game system's been in place for a while around the league, going back to Tampa Bay with their line coaches. And there's a commitment there to run the football, which it's no surprise. Dave came from Seattle. Pete Carroll. Well, you better be able to run the football.
All righty.
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.